This question comes from Alex, who asked, what if NATO invaded the United States? First, a quick honesty check. NATO literally includes the United States. So the only way this makes sense is if something wildly weird happened. Either the US was expelled, which the treaty doesn't really contemplate, or most NATO members somehow turned against the US politically and used alliance structures to act. I'll assume the hypothetical you mean is a coalition of NATO member states, Europe plus Canada plus others, acting without US consent, decided to use military force on US territory. That's the scenario I'll unpack. Start with law. NATO is built on collective defense, not collective attack against your own member. The North Atlantic Treaty's rules are about responding to attacks on members, and the alliance's political mechanics make any turn against a member legally and bureaucratically messy. In practice, Article 5 treats an attack on one ally as an attack on all. It does not authorize allies to band together to attack a fellow ally. The alliance has never been designed for internal warfare. Doing so would likely collapse NATO's legal foundation almost instantly. Politics breaks faster than armies. If European capitals seriously discussed invading the continental United States, you would see resignations, coups, emergency parliaments, and probably the rapid unspooling of NATO itself. Alliances are social contracts as much as military ones. They rely on political legitimacy. An attempt by NATO members to invade would fracture not just military chains of command, but diplomatic and economic ties, sanctions, reciprocal expulsions from organizations, immediate legal battles in multiple courts, and a cascade of political realignments. In short, this would be less a clean military plan and more a global political earthquake. Now the hard, boring numbers. The United States is the world's preeminent military power, with massive manpower, navy, air force, and nuclear forces. Any conventional attempt to invade or occupy US territory would confront unmatched American defense infrastructure. Bases, missile defenses, carrier strike groups, continental airspace control, and a huge industrial base to surge production. Militaries can do amazing things, but crossing oceans, securing ports, and sustaining a long-term occupation of a country the size of the US is not a weekend project. The logistics alone, fuel, munitions, transport, maintenance, are staggering compared to any post-Cold War NATO expedition. Then there's nuclear deterrence. The US and many NATO members possess nuclear arsenals. An operation that risks the survival of a nuclear-armed state is not only a military calculation, but a nuclear one. Even accidental escalation, misperception, or a tactical move that threatens strategic forces could trigger catastrophic options. The legal and political framework around Article 5 also matters here. Invoking collective defense or declaring aggression would instantaneously ask the hardest question in international relations: who controls which nukes, under what authority, and who decides escalation? Those questions tend to prevent armies from giving the order to cross the ocean in the first place. Assuming the political taboos somehow break and a NATO coalition tries a conventional campaign, the first phase would be a short, intense shock: cyber attacks, air operations, blockades, and precision strikes on key nodes. Modern militaries rarely try massive seaborne invasions anymore without uncontested air superiority and friendly logistics. NATO can project power, but power projection across the Atlantic against the US homeland faces two huge barriers: American home field defensive depth, and the Allies need to maintain supply lines halfway around the world under contested conditions. Every supply convoy becomes vulnerable, every forward base needs protection, every step away from Europe multiplies costs. The math of distance kills many otherwise cool plans. What about gray zones, non-lethal pressure, economic warfare, surprise political moves? Much more plausible. NATO members could try to suffocate US influence through sanctions, cyber ops, intelligence denial, or legal isolation. That's not an invasion in the 1942nd sense, but it's a way alliances actually change behavior. Those tools are powerful and dangerous because they can create existential domestic stress without a single sea landing. The pragmatic lesson: modern conflict between great powers uses economics, networks, and cyber. First boots second. Finally, the human factor and likely outcomes. Even if a coalition seized a few coastal footholds, holding them would be near impossible. US public opinion, militia mobilization, and sheer geography favor defense. Insurgency in your own country is politically and morally explosive. An occupying coalition would face resistance from a populace that has abundant access to weapons, media, and infrastructure to coordinate. Moreover, most NATO countries' populations and parliaments would balk at long, bloody occupations of a nation that has been a partner for decades. So the long game is disaster, runaway costs, internal political collapse in the invading countries, and a geopolitical order reconfigured in unpredictable ways. So what's the bottom line? A literal NATO invasion of the United States is essentially a political and legal non-starter. It would unravel the alliance and probably invite broader systemic collapse before any conventional campaign could succeed. The realistic danger is not armored columns crossing to Manhattan, it's alliance breakdown, cyber and economic coercion, and escalation that spins dangerously close to nuclear thresholds. In short, the scenario is a great bad movie, a terrible policy option, and an international constitutional crisis rolled into one. Please keep sending us your amazing questions. We are collecting them and will answer more of them in the future.